Yay, we're official. Okay, hello everyone. I see a few folks popping in through the into the webinar. Hello everyone. Thank you for joining us. If you are watching live, today is Monday, January 15th. If you're not watching live, then it's another day. I'm going to give everyone just another minute to join. It looks like we have 7 attendees. Hello, everyone who is joining us.
So exciting.
I know, we're really looking forward to today and sharing a little bit more about our program. So we're going to start with just some quick introductions. My name is Allie LeBeau. I am excited to be here today, and I am joined by Candace Cross. Together, we are part of the Education Department and specifically the STEM Pathways program. We're really excited to be launching today our CELP Scholar Program. And so today what we're going to be doing is we're going to be introducing a little bit more about this new program, as well as going over some of the detail of the application process. You'll see that you have a Q&A button at the bottom of your Zoom. Please use that to send us questions. We have a number of questions that we've anticipated or assumed you might have, so we've worked that into our agenda. But please feel free, if you already have questions, send those there. If you're watching this after the fact, into the future, and we haven't answered a question, please send those to us at our email, and we'll share that with you a couple times in the meeting. So to get started, what are we hoping to do today? We want to introduce CELP Scholar Program. CELP stands for Community, Equity, Learning, and Persistence. And the goal of our program is the Aquarium's CELP Scholar Program seeks to broaden participation in marine sciences, help more students find their own community in STEM, and support students' persistence in the field. And we know that that can look like a lot of different things, but we also are really excited to encourage as many people as possible to apply and to learn more about the program. Some more broad strokes about our goals and our vision for the program. It was informed by the previous successes of the African American Scholar Program, a program that we had here at the Aquarium for a number of years. However, with this shift, we're looking at a more regional effort of recruitment. We're also prioritizing community college and undergrad applicants because we know that that's where we can potentially have the most impact on our students, while continuing to provide financial investment, engagement, networking, and membership in a growing community of scholars. And that's what we're really excited about. So let's get into some of the details. Who is eligible? In order to be eligible for the CELP Scholar Program, you must be enrolled in a Southern California accredited community college or university through December 2024. And we ask that you are, you must be enrolled at the time of application submission. So right now is the application period. It's due February 19th. That means that we want you to show us, as part of the application, proof of your enrollment between now and December 2024. You can study any STEM-related field. We know the value of connecting to the aquarium, so there's no specific major that we're looking for, but we want you to be interested in things that we're interested in so that we can work together and network and support each other. And finally, you must be able to complete a W-9 or W-8 for the aquarium in order for us to process the award. And if you want more information about those specific forms, those are IRS forms that we recommend you look into to consider which of those would be most appropriate for you. Now, I do want to point out that there is no GPA requirement. When you're looking at this, GPA is not part of the selection process. Yes, we are asking for a transcript just to know where you are in school and what you're progressing through, but we are not looking for a specific GPA requirement as part of your application. Candace, what are
Hey,
some questions that you think
oh,
might come up in this section?
yeah. So a couple questions I'm thinking of is what if someone is transferring, going out of community college into another university or possibly transitioning from undergrad to grad? Are they still able to apply?
Yeah, that's a great question. So we know transitions are really critical points when people are persisting in the field. And so the short answer is yes, you are eligible. We just want you to be enrolled really like right now, right? To show where you are right now. There's even a specific question in the application process that asks you if you anticipate being in a different program or at a different school over the summer or even into the fall. So that's a great question. We are absolutely open to someone who's looking at transitioning from community college to a four-year degree or from undergrad to graduate school.
So another question that I have is in terms of that SoCal geographic region we've placed, what about someone who lives in SoCal but might be attending a school outside of Southern California, whether that be like in person or virtually? Are they able to apply?
So we want to maximize engagement with our scholars during the school year. And so for that reason, we want folks to be enrolled here in Southern California schools.
So I know that this is open to college students, but what about for high school students who are starting college next year, or might be currently enrolled and taking college courses?
Yeah, we hope that into the future, this program is offered year after year, and maybe in those future years, the current high school senior becomes a freshman at a Southern California school, but we want folks to be currently enrolled. So applicants must be enrolled and attending a college or university at the application submission. So that would mean if you're a freshman right now, that's great, but we want you to be currently enrolled in a Southern California school.
And speaking of those schools, is there a geographical cutoff that we're placing for how we identify Southern California?
Yeah, that's a great question, right? We're asking for Southern California schools. What does that mean? Is there a line in the sand? And there's no hard line in the sand. We're not pushing people out to the other side of it and taking people for our own. Again, we want to prioritize as much engagement with the aquarium and with each other as possible. So there's opportunity in your application to talk about how you see yourself engaging with the aquarium. And we'll be taking into consideration distance from school, availability to engage, maybe other commitments either. So we really encourage you to say, I think that my school is, here's how I'm going to engage. So there's no line in the sand for us to determine. You get to tell us if you think your school is Southern California and how you would come and engage with us.
And then one more question for this section. So I know you mentioned that there is no required major, but are there going to be any preferences towards specific majors that are applying to the program?
Yeah, we want to find those folks who are engaged in activities and interests and studies that overlap with the aquarium. But again, there are lots of opportunities in the application to be really specific about how your interests and your major connect with the aquarium. So no set preference for major. Tell us how you see yourself connecting with the aquarium. All right. Any other questions about eligibility? Do us a favor and just send them in the chat or stew on them a little bit and we'll come on back to them. So the next phase is, what do you need to do to apply? First off, we need you to create an account via the application portal online. And I'm really excited to say, I think I looked this morning and there's over 60 accounts already created. So that means that 60 folks have already found us, which is awesome. That's the first step. There are 5 short answer essays and 1 optional. That should say optional. I didn't edit it. That's totally my bad. There's one optional. I highly recommend that you take that opportunity and that space to answer those questions. For each of those short answer essays, we're recommending at least 25 words per essay. And we'll talk a little bit more about that when we take a closer look at the application portal. To be considered, you must submit all of your materials by 11:59 p.m. Pacific time on February 19th. So by the deadline, everything has to be submitted. And that means that your draft submission has to be submitted as a final application. And Candace is going to go into this a little bit more when we walk through the application portal. So some of the details, we do need that full transcript. As we talked about before, that just shows us what Southern California University or college you're enrolled in. We understand that unofficial transcripts may not show your future plans, but it helps us have an idea of where you are in your study. The next two pieces are fillable PDFs through the portal. And really, we just ask for these as part of the application because it's one less thing for us to collect later, and it really helps us just sort of check some of those boxes. The photo release allows us to take your picture. So when you're at the aquarium, when you're participating with us, you've already said, yes, aquarium, you can take my picture and use those pictures. The licensing agreement allows us to use materials that you've created. So when you are creating materials for us, when you're sharing a lightning talk as part of the Scholar Symposium, having that signed licensing agreement already in place is just one more box that's checked, one less piece of paper that we need. So we know we've gotten some questions already about suggestions for filling out the licensing agreement. My recommendation would be when you're giving us access to different resources, if you want to write lightning talk, scholar announcement, you can put those in there. We can also revisit the licensing agreement later on and make sure that everything is current and makes our marketing partners, our marketing team happy. We ask for contact information for 2 references. We are not asking for letters of recommendation, but we want to know who are those 2 references that you want us to know about. Signed acknowledgement at the very bottom of the application. There are just a couple buttons to click that you acknowledge that you are completing the application yourself. Everything is your own words and you agree to the commitment. And finally, there is a place to upload a resume or a CV as well. Candace, what are the questions that we probably have?
Yeah, so you're asking for contact information for 2 references, but do those references need to write a letter for the applicant?
Yeah, a great question. They do not need to write a letter of reference. It's still a good idea for you to notify those references and let them know you've put them down. They're probably some of your biggest fans, and so they'll cheer you on, but you do not need to ask them for letters at this point.
And another question that a lot of people have is, if the transcript that they're submitting doesn't show proof of enrollment past this semester, is that okay? Is there a way that they can indicate when they're going to be graduating?
Yes, so there is a space in the application that specifically asks for your anticipated graduation date. We know that that might change, but at this point in your trajectory, let us know your anticipated graduation date. Let us know if you anticipate that you'll be in a different program come the summer or come the spring. We'll review this as well as the transcript as proof that you're currently attending school. All right, let's talk about timeline. Well, here we are, January 15th, live webinar explaining the program. It's happening. The next deadline, of course, is the deadline for the submission. We talked about that a little bit. Make sure that you give yourself time and make sure that you are hitting that button to say submit officially. Let's talk a little bit about some of those next steps. Now, you'll notice that starting in March, we have Zoom interviews with finalists. So we take our big pool of applicants and we'll split it into two pools. We'll look at community college students and undergrads in one pool, and we'll look at graduate students in another pool. And then we will select a set number of finalists to complete Zoom interviews. And the reason we do this is we want to get to know you a little bit more. We want learn a little bit more about some potential engagements that you might be able to explore with the aquarium, some potential networking opportunities or introductions that we can make, because we want to make sure that we're finding folks who the aquarium can support. If someone's really interested in robotics, maybe that's not as good of maybe that's not as strong of an option because it's not as much of something that the aquarium does. After the Zoom interviews are complete, we will let our selected finalists know, and we will ask them to complete just a couple steps in the initial process. And that includes asking for a really short announcement video where they speak directly to the camera and talk about themselves a little bit. And they'll also submit a headshot, just a nice little photo of themselves. We'll use those materials as part of our May 4th official announcement. And that's going to happen here at the aquarium. One of the things I really love about that event is we want you to invite your family. We want you to invite your friends. We really want to make you VIPs that day to celebrate the initial cohort of the CELP Scholars. As we move further along in the process and as those awardees are selected, oh, there goes my light. As we move forward in the process, we'll give a lot more information, but this is a nice layout so that you can sort of have an anticipation of when you might hear more information. What did I forget, Candace?
I mean, that sounds pretty good to me. I think we should start telling them what they're going to be receiving if they're a CELP Scholar.
Cool. All right, cool. I'm going to pass it over to you, Candace.
Awesome. So I'm going to talk a little bit about what you can expect if you become an Aquarium CELP Scholar. So first off, you're going to be getting these curated introductions to aquarium staff and professional networking opportunities. And that's a really nice open-ended thing, actually. It's going to be very personalized to the scholar, very dependent on what the scholar might be interested in, the bandwidth that our staff have to support our scholar, and what opportunities we have at the aquarium that are aligned with what the student is interested in. And this, lengthwise is going to look like a couple of different things. It might just be some general networking. We can set up some short conversations to have you meet people all around the aquarium in different departments. And then we can also have longer engagements that occur that result in things more like mentorship. The opportunities are going to vary in terms of whether they are remote or in person. So there's going to be, availability on both of those ends to work with the scholars' schedule themselves. And some of the things that you can kind of think about we might be able to offer you is like mentorship, like I said, on-site participation at some of our aquarium events that we have. You might create some aquarium resources. That's where that licensing agreement that Ali mentioned comes in. There can be opportunities for you to interface with the public if that's something that you would like. But essentially, we're using this as a way to allow you to test out your interests, using the aquarium as the resource and as the environment. So some of the things that we've had scholars do in the past, we've had them judge our High Tide high school film festival. We've had them make videos for our early childhood education activities. We've also can offer things like shadowing a staff member in education that might work with a particular winter or summer camp program. So in general, we really recommend that you do some research into the aquarium, especially on our website, to get an idea of what kinds of programs we offer and some events that we have coming up. And that can give you an idea of what you might be able to do with us or mention in your application that you'd like to do with us. Another thing we're going to be offering is our CELP board. So that's just a lovely name for our quarterly newsletter. And we include a lot of different things that we send out as an email to our scholars. That will include a nice list of like job postings and internship postings. So you can kind of stay up to date on opportunities inside and outside of the aquarium. We're going to be having scholar updates. So we have already an amazing community of scholar alumni that are doing, awesome things all over the world. And we want to be able to make sure that all the scholars feel like they know what's up with the rest of their community. And then we also break down usually a nice little calendar that has the events that are coming up, whether they be affiliated with your CELP Scholar experience or not. We have things like Night Dive and First Wednesday lecture series that we like to make sure our scholars are aware of if they'd like to attend. We're also going to be having scheduled professional development webinars, and those are going to be something that we are going to do virtually, but we want to have live participation, and then we'll also record those things because we know that life comes up and we want to make sure those are available for later viewing, or if you want to come back to the information that we talk about. And we're going to have a minimum of 4 virtual check-ins for our CELP scholars. And that check-in is really just going to be a time to, get to know your cohort, but also, get some updates from them as well. And then we'll usually follow with a workshop that will oftentimes involve some of our scholar alums. So they might talk to us about, building resumes or imposter syndrome, different topics like that. And then outside of those minimum 4 that we're going to be having, we'll also have some additional ones that are scattered throughout on different topics that if you're interested, you can join us, or again, you can watch those recordings after the fact. We also are going to be doing lots of community building events, as we call them. So we really wanted to make sure there was opportunity for scholars to have more low pressure time to interact and just socialize and get to know each other. So we have a number of virtual and in-person opportunities for you to just get to know each other. And, we might go to a museum, we might have you come to the aquarium and arrange something for that. Or we might go and do a game night virtually. So we have a lot of different ideas for how we can do those activities. We also have our Scholar Symposium. So that's going to be scheduled already for September 28, 2024. And that is another in-person activity. And that's one of our favorite days. We love to see all of our scholars shine. But really, it's a day for scholars to share their accomplishments and their stories with our broader aquarium community. So that might include people like donors, board members, other aquarium staff. We also invite local high school students to listen to everyone's really inspiring stories and ask questions to the scholars after they give their presentations or their lightning talks. And then also just getting to share with each other. We know that it's not always possible to have all these conversations all the time with each other. And so it's just a moment to be proud together. And then additionally to that, we do have some special things set aside for our scholars. We bring in some guest speakers that we think our scholars would really like to connect to, and then also have a career panel of different staff from different departments around the aquarium. And then the last thing that our CELP scholars are receiving is a financial award of $10,000. So that gets pushed out in 2 installments, but it's really to support your journey and your trajectory within marine science and STEM. So, Ali, are there any questions that you think people might have about what we're giving to our scholars in this program?
I think there might be, because we're talking about a lot of neat stuff, but there's also sort of some room for personalization and really
Absolutely.
figuring things out. So here's my first question. How often do we expect a scholar to visit the aquarium?
That's a really great question. So we don't have a set expectation for that. We can't provide something so frequent as having you here each week. We'd love to see you each week, but unfortunately, that's just not something that we can balance at the time. But really, it's dependent on what the scholar is interested in, what kind of events and opportunities the aquarium offers that are related to those interests. And as you're going through your year as a scholar, you're also always welcome to propose ideas that can make you more involved.
Does being a scholar mean that you will get a job at the aquarium?
Great question. So, in general, as an aquarium scholar, you're going to be introduced to the aquarium environment, the people who work here, and other events and opportunities that relate to your interests. And while we can't immediately accept scholars for jobs, they often have more institutional knowledge and career relevant knowledge that make them a better fit for working at the aquarium after. And we actually have had scholar alumni go on after their first year to be accepted into some of our paid internships or some of our job openings after they've been in that first year.
Are there research opportunities?
Yeah, that's a great question. I know research is a really important thing when you are navigating STEM and marine science as an undergrad and grad student. And so the aquarium, we do engage in some projects that contribute to research. But as a program, CELP is not necessarily like an REU. We're not offering research experiences for undergraduates. So we definitely recommend that if research is a priority for you, that you apply to those programs. And especially with CELP, it's not like a one or the other program. You can absolutely do an REU and still be a CELP scholar. So definitely look into those opportunities if you would like to have that experience.
And we know that the financial award is a really nice component and really makes a lot possible. And is, even though we listed in the last bullet, it's a source of interest for a lot of people. So does the aquarium, do we limit how people can use the award, or do they have to show what they do with it?
Great question. So we don't ask for that information. Again, the financial award really is so that we can support the scholar in their journey in STEM. And that can look like a lot of things. So our scholar is welcome to use the money in the way that they best see fit. A lot of our scholars in the past have used those funds towards helping to, relieve themselves of some shifts at a part-time job, help cover some tuition, or if they're going to the field, they might need gas money, field equipment, even diving equipment. And we've also had some hire undergraduates, if they're grad students, to help them with their projects. So really anything that you think is supportive to your journey is an absolutely good use for those funds.
All right. Ready to talk about what they agree to?
Yes. So this is going to echo a lot of that last slide, but just to be really clear about what our CELP scholars commit to in their first year when they are brought into the program. So our CELP scholars in their first year commit to participating in quarterly virtual check-in meetings. So like I said, those check-ins that are going to have those skill building workshops to help them within their career. And we are going to set those dates prior to award announcement. So you will know the schedule that we are expecting before, we talk about official acceptance into the program. We ask our scholars to as well identify and engage in an aquarium initiative of interest to their individual professional development needs or career goals. And so again, really just being specific into how you would like to engage with the aquarium and showing us how that relates to what you want to do in the future. And really that's so we can provide the experience that is going to be most helpful to you. We are also asking our scholars to present a 5-minute lightning talk, as we like to call it, during the Scholar Symposium. Like I said, that's an in-person event we're asking our scholars to be at on September 28th, 2024. It's a nice little Saturday. And so that lightning talk's going to kind of just talk about their journey in science, some of the accomplishments, that they wish to share with the rest of the aquarium. And then we also ask that our scholars attend at least one additional in-person event. So that's additional to the symposium and additional to that welcome, scholars announcement that we're going to have in May. So that would be something like an in-person community building event. And we have made sure to schedule multiple of those throughout the first year of a scholar's schedule. So that way you have multiple opportunities and hopefully more than one you'll want to come to engage with your community. And really this commitment is to help to communicate to our scholars what they can expect from us as the Aquarium, as the Scholar Program, how we're going to support them. And so really we can be flexible when things come up. We know that there are other events outside of CELP Scholars that are important to your professional growth, and we don't want to stand in the way of those ever. So we can always make some fine tuning and some adjustments when needed. And we really just, at the end of the day, have this commitment here to make sure that the program is a good fit for the scholar and the trajectory that they're on.
Hey, Candace, a really great question just came through the chat.
Yeah.
So this is from one of our attendees, and this is such a great question. So I'm going to, I think, take the time to answer it live. So the question is, we talk about what the first year is like within the program. How long will scholars remain in the CELP Scholar Program?
That's a super great question. I'm glad someone asked that. So there really isn't, I would say, an end date to your membership in the CELP Scholar Program. There's, a really distinct first year that we have set up, and it's, very clearly outlined, hence this commitment. But I'm constantly emailing our Scholar alumni right now. We provide check-ins for alumni. And so, just ensuring that outside of these workshops that we provide in the first year of the program, they just have space to even just catch up, check on each other, see how each other is doing. And they are also invited to the virtual check-ins that we have with this first year of scholars. So if you are in the Scholar Program, you're going to end up meeting and probably getting presentations from some of our alumni. So we always definitely reach out to them with those opportunities to contribute to the next cohort. We're also constantly reaching out to them for opportunities like participating at events like Family Science Night. If we hear, through the email chain that someone is looking for a guest speaker at an event, we always reach out to our scholars. So just because you finish your first year doesn't mean you're not essentially subject to all the emails that I will constantly continue to send you over the years. So you're absolutely still within the community. We're still asking you to participate. We love when you participate. And we're hoping that you would continue to contribute to the community after your first year.
Yeah,
Ali, is there anything else you want to add?
I think that last point that you made was really just what I wanted to say, was that we hope you can continue to be engaged, because we want the value to be the community that we're creating and the network. We have alumni who are continuing to come back to the symposiums. We're having alumni who are having conversations with current cohort about jobs or internship opportunities or future next steps, or what it's like to apply. That's really our end goal, is creating this community that is continuing to grow. So I think you've presented that really well. I also see actually that one of our alumni is attending the webinar. So
I see her too.
if she would like to send anything through the Q&A, she says hi.
She says hi. That's so.
Candace, do you want to move us into the application?
Yeah, absolutely. And we do see that question, by the way, asking for the maximum words. We will kind of get to that as we start to look through the application. So my apologies for not seeing that the first time around, getting to that. So we will answer you, I promise.
Yeah.
All right, let me make sure that this is always like that typical, let me share screen. Can you see it? All right, do you see the landing page?
I do, yes.
Awesome.
So now we're going to get into the nitty gritty of okay, I get it. What do I need to do? So from this landing page, Candace is going to scroll down, and we see a lot of the same language that we've presented already today, but we went into a little bit more depth to hopefully explain sort of what that all means. So you're going to hit that submit an application. And from there, you'll be transferred to this portal. So if you go down to the bottom, if you have never seen this before, the very first thing you're going to need to do is to create an account. And when you do that, there's some just initial information. First name, last name, pronouns. We have pronouns as optional, but please feel free to share those with us, even if you think we could probably assume them. We would love to make sure that we're using the proper pronouns. Email, phone number, and password. This is all that's needed to create an account. So we've already gotten 60-something people who have gotten this far. Even if you're not ready to really go very far into the application, I recommend creating an account so that you can at least gain access to the portal and get a sense of what's expected. So Candace is going to log in as a potential applicant. And so she's already created an initial draft. She started it, she logged in, and she's going to edit that. So let's look at that draft and see what we have. Again, we have some reminders about what to expect, what's needed, the application details. Really read through that if you have some specific questions. And you'll keep scrolling down and you'll get to the section where you can start inputting information. You've already shared your name and email address. So now we're going to learn a little bit more about your school and your background. We want to know where you are going to school. We want to know a permanent home address. And the reason we ask for a current and a permanent address is because you might be at school or you might have temporary housing right now. That could be your current address. But your home address is, that really reliable, I can always get mail there, home address. If you want to only use one of them, that's fine. But what we found is it's really helpful for us to know where we can always send you mail versus where we can get you mail right now if there's something that needs to get to you. We want to hear what your major is. We want to know what your status is. Are you first year? Are you second year? Or are you that grad student? And here's that box that a lot of folks have been asking about, this anticipated graduation date. We know that this is going to change. This might be flexible. We want to know, though, right now where you are in your coursework, where do you anticipate graduating? Again, graduating your current place, right? What you're doing right now. And then again, we mentioned this one before, but I think this is really useful. Will you be enrolled in the same degree program at the same school in fall of 24? Many people might just say, yep, I'm still chugging along. Great. But if you anticipate either transferring to a four-year school or graduating and going into grad school, this is where we want to hear that. So yes, I will be in the same one, or no, and here's where I might be. Next, we want you to make sure that we're putting you into the right category. We mentioned before there are two pools that all applicants will be sorted into. And you might wonder, like, why are we doing that? And the reason is we know that the interests and needs and even language, the essays, how you talk about what you're interested in at the undergrad level is going to be really different than what we talk about or expect from some of our graduate students. We know there's a ton of value of creating these cohorts that are made up of folks at different levels, but we want to compare apples to apples and oranges to oranges. Undergrads, current undergrads, are you a Pell Grant recipient? Yes or no, or you're not currently an undergrad. Those are the three options. Grad students, did you receive a Pell Grant during your undergraduate? Yes, no, or I am not a graduate student. So you should be able to answer both of those. Let's see. Are you the first in your family? Are you one of the first in your family to go to college? Yes or no? How did you hear about our program? This is really, really helpful for us. We have some options, but we also have other. If you found out from a really unique way, please let us know. That's helpful for us because we are using a few different promotional strategies. We know a lot of folks hear about it from someone on campus, a professor, but if your mom found it on some website and she shared it with you, awesome, let us know. That has no determination at all. It does not play a role at all in the selection process. It just helps us continue to learn more about how the word is getting out. These next two questions are just really short fill in the blank. Please list any extracurricular activities in which you are currently involved, and what other opportunities are you applying to or considering for summer or beyond. This is not where we want those 250 word answers. These don't even need to be complete sentences. If you just want to say, I'm a soccer player, I'm part of this club at school, and I work part-time at a coffee shop. That just starts to give us some idea of what else you're involved in, who else you're connected to, who else you might know, and who else you might already be working with. And again, what are those other opportunities? Help us have a sense of, especially for summer and beyond, what are your commitments lining up as? What else are you involved in? Have you already found this really cool RU that you're participating in? Then we get into the short answer essays. We recommend 250 words at least for each of these. As you fill in this box, the box will expand. That does not mean I recommend typing here. I definitely think it's a good idea to have a Word document or a Google document that helps you edit. It gives you that little hint. This is not really grammatically correct. You might want to fix this spelling. It also just gives you another copy of that essay that you've worked really, really hard on and put so much into. There's a lot of interest in what's the max word count. We do not have a max word count. And Candace, let me know if you have any thoughts on this as well. I guess my only suggestion would be make sure that you're completely answering the question to the best of your ability. More words does not necessarily make for a stronger essay. We're anticipating 250, 300 words should probably give you enough space to answer the question. If you're writing a 2,000 word essay here, that might be a little bit harder for the selection committee to read in just that one chunk. Make sure you're answering the question as directly and specifically as possible. If you're doing that in 100 words, go back and look again and see what else you might add. Candace, do you have any other thoughts about this length of question?
No, I totally agree with you. I wouldn't say it's 100% quality over quantity, but if you, like Ali said, if you start getting into a really long essay, think about what information is pertinent to that question. What is something that maybe is, extraneous or we don't need to know. And just, again, always make sure that you are tying it back to what the question is and tying things back to the aquarium, especially.
Yeah. And so for this first question, why are you interested in the CELP Scholar Program? I think that one's very straightforward. What do you hope to gain, learn, and or experience? Why are you doing this? Why are you going through that process? Why are you going through this process of applying for this? The next question, how does your field of study and or career plans relate to the work of the aquarium? So if you have a major that isn't immediately recognizable as connected to the aquarium, this is your opportunity to tell us, here's how I see the connection. And we ask, how can direct engagement with the aquarium support your professional development? Tell us really specifically, maybe go and research, as Candace said, a little bit more about the aquarium. What are we involved in that sparks your interest? Depending on where you are in your trajectory, you might just be learning as much as possible. If you're an undergrad or maybe in community college, you don't know what you don't know. So we really recommend that you research and look into what the aquarium is involved in, and then specifically talk about what you see the benefit of being connected to the aquarium is. I feel like this is a very common question on a lot of applications. Describe a specific challenge you faced either personally or academically and how you overcame it. We know everyone has their own struggles, so tell us about that and how you've persevered. Through the CELP Scholar Program, the aquarium looks to build a community of students that supports, engages, and engage, and inspire each other. How do you see yourself participating in this community? Candace outlined some of the community building activities, the opportunity to come together. The community component is really core to what we're trying to do. So we want to hear your thoughts on it. Maybe you have similar communities or networks that you're connected with that you want to share how you've engaged with them or how you see yourself contributing into the future. We want to know really specifically about that community idea. Community is that C in the CELP. It's really paramount to the program. And then finally, is there anything else you'd like us to know about you? I'd recommend telling us something. You can leave a blank if you really think you've laid it all out there, but why not take the opportunity to fill it in and tell us something else so that we get to know you a little bit better? Candace, anything else about those essays that we want to share?
Yeah, I think like Ali said, take the time to let us know something else. And one thing as well we've noticed is we know some of you are all very, very involved. Like Ali mentioned, up here is like a short response type of format. Eventually we found out that it will cut you off if you are just so abundant with activities. So, you know, this is a great space to put anything extra that maybe you couldn't fit up at the top. And yeah.
That's good. I'm glad we know now that one will cut you off too. It's good to know. All right, here we have our uploads. We mentioned this before. I'm really excited and shout out to folks in our marketing team who helped make these possible. We've created some fillable PDFs. This is just to hopefully reduce a barrier. I know I don't have a printer at home. If I have to print something, it takes me just an extra step. Fortunately, we now have these fillable PDFs. Can you click on that photo release one, or is it not allowing it? Might not allow it.
Sorry, let me stop sharing for a moment.
Yeah.
I can see it. It's just not in the same window, so I have to select a different window.
I figured that might happen.
There we go. Can you
So
see?
as we said before, thank you so much. So as we said before, why are we doing this? It's just one more thing to take care of as part of the application so that we have this box checked. When we announce our scholars, when we proudly put those names up on the website, we need to make sure that we have your approval to use your image and to use your photo. So by taking that really quick couple minutes to fill in this PDF and then upload it as part of your application, it's a little part of the application process, but it saves us so much time into the future. So we want that for the photo release. And then for the licensing agreement, again, we are just, that allows us to make use of any materials that you've created. And again, if you want to just list lightning talk, scholar announcement, or anything really vague in there, we'll make sure that it works in the future. So again, just having that signature is all we really need. Moving down to the references, again, we do not need your references to write letters for you. We just want to know who those folks are. And I highly recommend that you let those folks know, hey, I included you as a reference. Nothing is needed right now, but just in case the Aquarium contacts you. And Candace, thank you. I noticed you highlighted that your reference cannot be a family member, close personal or family friend. We know that our moms are going to give us a huge shout out. We know our cousin loves us and can say all these wonderful things about us. We really want to have those academic or professional references that can speak about you in a different context. Should we be contacting them? Okay. It's also just really great experience to have that conversation with a professor or a boss or a supervisor or a lead to just say, hey, I'm applying for this. I'd like to put your name down. And hopefully that's a really nice conversation that you can have with that person as well. Finally, this is the signed acknowledgement. We need you to click those boxes once everything is complete. This is your verification that, yes, I agree, everything here is true. I have met all of the requirements. I've done everything you need me to do. And yes, I understand that this is what you want from me. And then really important, down at the bottom, there is a save as draft. Go ahead and click that button for as long as you'd like until we get close to February 19th. Once we get to that February 19th and you say everything is all done, you have to click submit. Thank you for pointing out. Candace, do you want to point out sort of what you're seeing here? Because I see you're sort of highlighting.
Yeah, so like Ali mentioned, there's those two buttons at the bottom of the application that will say either save as draft or submit. The way that you know that you have a draft saved is when you first log in to the application portal, you're going to see status of your application is draft. You can only create one application one application with your login. Just keep that in mind. So like she said, when you're ready to submit, this status will reflect that, and it should turn, I believe it's a green color, but it will say like submitted or something, so that you know that it's officially in for us to start looking at. Ali, so there might be a question that people, have mulling in their brains about submitting a strong application. Do you have any advice for, giving their strongest application?
Said it a couple times, but I'll just reiterate it and sort of put it right here. We really recommend that you are as specific as possible in your essay responses. Really help yourself stand out. And that might involve doing some research on the aquarium's website or learning more about what the aquarium's involved in to get some more detail about what you see yourself learning or gaining or how you see yourself connecting to the aquarium. Even saying, I'd love to be introduced to how the aquarium's education department works. I'm fascinated by how an aquarium interacts with the public. I'd like to learn more about how they work with school programs. How do you work with teachers? I'm really interested in potentially shadowing a school program and learning what that's like. Or I'm really interested in animal care. I'd love to connect with some animal care staff and learn how they got into the field and what they love about their job and what they see as their future career trajectories. So being as specific as possible and demonstrating that you've done a little bit of research is always really good. And then just really be yourself, be authentic, be genuine. You can only speak about your own experience. And we're looking for a community of individuals. So we want to know, what are you interested in sharing? Who are you and how will you show up for others in the group? Anything else that you might want to add, Candace?
No, I think we've really talked about the core of the program, just being, as specific as you can about how you're going to engage with the community, and things like that. And overall, I'm just really excited to start reading responses and seeing who's applying to our program and get to meet some people. So
I agree. And I know that there is some interest in it. We're so excited to see folks already starting to draft their applications. Please know that we hope that this program will continue to run into the future. This is just our first year, and so we're excited to learn a lot from our first cohort. And we're really lucky to have our alumni scholars. Shout out to those on the call right now. We're really lucky to have these alumni who are continuing to contribute to it, and we know that it will continue to grow. So thank you ahead of time to everyone who's putting time and effort and thought into their application. We know we're asking for a few different steps, but we know that it will be worth it in the long run. And finally, I'm just going to share this screen really quickly. If we haven't covered something, if you want to clarify something, if you just want to confirm, send us an email at helpscholars@lbaop.org. We'll do our best to answer the question as quickly as possible. We may ask for some clarification, but this is the best way to follow up with us and to learn more. If you know of others who might be interested, please share the application. If you know of high school students who should know about this for next year, send it to them now. Again, we hope that this continues to be something that the aquarium can offer in the future. And we're excited to see where it goes. Awesome. All right. I think that's it. Thank you to the 10 folks that were watching live. I really appreciate you taking time, especially on this holiday.
Absolutely.
Usually there's a slight oversight. Yeah. AV, I'm gonna pause recording. I think that's it. So I'm gonna stop recording actually and just say thank you again, everyone. And we'll
Thanks so
talk
much.
soon.